Hi, I'm Tony Riddle, and this is the Nat Life Pod, a platform for conversation to help close the gap between wellness as an industry and wellness as a state of being. Big shout out to this episode's sponsor, XL Coffee. XL are renowned organic coffee producers here in the UK who have gone to extraordinary lengths to ensure their coffee is mold-free and has kept its antioxidant potency. XL are waking up the world of coffee. I'm a big fan and recommend you go give them a try. Use discount code NatLifePod at checkout. Details are in the show notes. Welcome back to the Nat Life Pod. I'm super excited to be bringing you another conversation with my wife and natural lifestyle and parenting partner, Katarina Riddle. Katarina is an incredible advocate for natural parenting, unschooling, and holistic living. Her deep understanding of the importance of nurturing children in harmony with nature has made her a beacon of inspiration for many parents worldwide. And I'm always getting requests to have her back on the podcast, so here she is. Join us as we answer your questions and delve deep into the world of natural parenting, unschooling, family constellations, and lifestyle. Stay tuned for this inspiring chat. Much love. Hey, Katarina.
Hi, darling.
How you doing?
Doing very well.
Yeah. Pod number 3.
Ah, yes, it is number 3. Yeah.
Number 3, on demand.
Nice.
Yeah, I do believe so. And we've had the most views on the parenting one, right? And it was quite recent considering. Yeah. Because we're like almost 20 podcasts in, I believe, and looking at the stats. So there's such a call for it. And maybe it's more of a call for you because it's been, can you get Katarina back on again? Yeah. So I think this needs to be a regular thing. You know, and I like the idea of putting it out to the community because that's a community again, isn't it? It's like opportunity to share our kind of unique gifts and talents and the wisdom that's gained through that experience. It would be nice if you think about the beginning of parenting, if we had that community, right?
Yeah, for me, it's if you give me a mic and say, can you talk about parenting? I actually don't know where to start and what to say. But if people ask me questions, I'm happy to answer those questions or talk about something people can relate to.
You say that, but again, the last pod there weren't questions being fired in, and
True.
That's had the most views. The We Move one that we did for Chris and James, that had again a lot of views and a lot of feedback, and its engagement of it's like people really engaged with it and engaged with you, right? So that wasn't a form of questioning, it was still quite a chat, right?
Yeah, but you ask me questions.
But it's still a chat, it's still like a conversation, yes. Right? More than, so Katarina, with my notepad and,
Yeah.
I'm not a massive fan of pods like that. I like it to be much more relaxed in that sense. I've been on pods where there's even had like a iPad and I've been scrolling through the iPad to ask me questions, and it feels, I don't know. Anyway, I mean, there's different formats.
It's not your
style. Not judging anyone, but it's kind of just feels a very different format for me. But on this occasion, we do have questions, and I'm going to scroll through my phone. So I'm going to be that podcaster.
Okay.
So there we go. I can actually then really speak to it from a place of knowing, which largely are these parenting conversations. Is from a place of real knowing, but what it's taken to get there, What I'd really love to start with before we get to the list of questions is you had an epiphany, right, the other morning. And
yes.
I came in the room, you're kind of sitting in your meditation pose, and Tallulah and Bowman are asleep either side of you. And you said, I've just been awake for hours. I just had this, I had this thought about something that just dropped in. And now I'm going to hand it over to you. What was that thought?
Yeah, I remember reading stories about scientists and mathematicians when they couldn't tackle something for years and years. And then there was they just fell asleep in front of the fire or just walked through the park, or it was Archimedes. Am I pronouncing
Archimedes.
Properly? Archimedes, who just went into the bath and had this,
the epiphany.
sometimes I just think about things and I'm awake during the night and I can't sleep and I just suddenly go, interesting, I never thought about this before. So I have those moments during the night or early mornings. Probably the brain is quite relaxed in, in those hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this one was I was thinking about word understanding and understand because I'm going through a stage in my life when I'm trying to understand what is unconscious, what is subconscious, what is subtle body, what is soul, what is this, what is that, where is it coming from, what is brain, what are thoughts. And I'm kind of trying to like understand, but then it's such complex topic that is beyond understanding. So I was playing with that word understanding. But what you are talking about, I had memory of when I went to university, and there was a book in the library written by a Czech psychologist, child psychologist, and under the title of the book or the first page of the book had a picture of a child, and there was a sentence: if you want to bring up a child, first you have to understand them. And my mind for many years stuck with the word understand them. You have to understand children. You have to, I would tell myself as a mother, just try to understand your children. You have to understand. But in those morning hours, I suddenly realized that the word in Czech or Slovak language is not really what it is in English, understand.
Well, you explained there's two meanings.
Yes. So in Slovak, the understand could be translated two ways. So one is rozumiem, which implies rozum is brain. So it implies understanding with your brain.
Yeah, like the analytical, logical
Yes.
understanding.
So it implies understanding how machines work, understand like something, technical.
Yeah.
Or understand a language. So you need to understand a language to grasp an idea. But the other word we use in our vocabulary is chápem, which means, in English, I would translate it more like when you tell me about your problems and I go, I get it.
I see.
Or I go, I see.
That's how you explained it. It's like to be seen or to see.
Yes. And I had this suddenly, oh my God, I'm so stuck with this word understand, but I need to concentrate on word I see. So, and then the sentence translates, it's like brings completely different translation, which is so beautiful.
Well, it's quite emotional, isn't it? When you think of it that way.
If you want to bring up your child,
stir something deeper.
First you need to see them. So for me, see, it's like there is the spiritual seeing with third eye, but also we could say the poetical see, you need to be able to see through your heart.
Yeah.
So if you want to bring up a child or teach your child or any, professional who has something to do with child, first you have to see them. You have to be able to see them.
Yeah, because after you go through those epiphanies, I kind of go off on tangents and have epiphanies, because I was having a conversation with someone just recently about father wounds and mother wounds. And is that not that we haven't been seen? And and you sit in a lot of these circles, and again, it's what people voice is, I feel seen. This is the first time I've ever felt that I'm being seen.
Yes.
And then so if you want to understand the child, not just the child, it's like what impact that would have through their life through not being seen or not feeling like they've been seen. And really that should come through that primary foundation, because you brought it right into foundations as well. You brought like bulbous work in.
Because then I went with my thoughts, which I like talking about the heart connection of parent and child. So how do you see your child with your heart? How do you get that skill? Where do you learn it? And that happens in bonding. So it's the bond that mother and child create, and then father and child and any other person and child creates is the bonding that gives you the wisdom and ability to see your child. So, sometimes people think, oh, do I need to study or how much do I need to know to be a parent? in theory, you don't need to study anything. If you're properly bonded with your child, you just see them. You don't have to be a psychologist or have any awareness of child's development, or because the bond gives you intelligence to see your child.
And yet, I guess it's, we still need to see that.
Well, I
That
think
has to be seen, you know?
Yeah.
Again, that's almost like an inherited template, because 95% of our 95% of our existence, or our evolution, again, was an outdoor, nature-based species, several mothers, several fathers in a community. And when we think about the mother, it's like several of those being seen by all of those, and then we become, now for 95% of our time, we're an indoor species. We actually just live indoors, right? 95% of our time, and largely divorced from any even concept. We'd think it was like crazy notion to even think there would be several mothers, several fathers. Can't even connect to it, because that's not being, we haven't seen it to understand it even. So even the logical would go, nah, that can't be that. So I guess that's the position that we struggle with, right? Because we don't necessarily have the template for it. So although we're not, we don't need advice to be the parent, we just need to understand how to see the child. But we need the advice, coaching almost, and conversation of how to see the child.
Well, I guess what you're trying to
Confidence to
say,
be able to even bond with them.
you could even use the word rewilding. In a way, if we want to go back to our more natural self, which in nature you would be just naturally bonded parent. So if we want to go back to more our natural selves, these days we need the understanding and knowledge to help us to get there. Yes, yeah. Because it's like we nearly don't trust it. We don't believe it. We kind of have the feeling, and I'm the same, I'm not an exception. Yes, I get it. But is there any proof or bit of evidence that is going to confirm that I'm doing the right thing? Yeah. So I guess we do look for there is nothing wrong with trying to understand things, but I guess the understanding that allows us to open up and be able to see with our hearts.
Well, it's a beautiful kind of idea to go around, and am I ticking both boxes of understanding? It's like, I understand.
I think in nature you could get away just with seeing.
Yeah.
But we are people in 21st century living in Europe, very disattached from nature. So for us, the understanding also needs to be balanced with the seeing.
But again, we do live in a world though where we are conditioned for this understanding, because the term like seeing is believing as well. It's like that's this side, right? So we've had all this information, but if we don't see it, then how is it really truly believable? Because otherwise it's just a textbook. And this weekend spoke to that. And many of the coaching certs that we hold or experiences here speak to that, because always in the closing of these experiences, I'm hit with, I've heard so much about the way you and your family live, or the way that you choose to live, and the experiences that you hold, and your kids, and the parenting style, and not having any furniture. But actually, now we've been here for a weekend, it's so much more powerful than that, than hearing it on a podcast or reading about it in the book, because they've seen it. They're in it. That's the real how do you embody something unless you really go in and experience it? So I guess back to the bonding, like for those that need to hear it first, because we've got some questions here, but because the bonding experience, that's been refined with us over time, really because of you, I would say, is the real understanding of that bonding experience. And there are new people listening to this, and there are people that perhaps aren't going to have any interest in going all the way back and going through the rigmarole of finding the We Move podcast, So it's like a new conversation for some. So I guess there's your understanding of that bonding experience going through the ages of Lola through to Millie, through to Tallulah, and through to Bo, your refinement or attunement of that, what do you think? Going by your knowledge, psychology as a background, what you understand, and now what you really understand.
Okay, so I think the easiest way to explain it for me from how I experienced it when I was pregnant and I had first child. Yes, I had lots of books on my shelf. So I was definitely looking for the understanding, and I had like even in my head, just tell me what to do, and I just do it. And yes, it's not about being told what to do. It's about bonding to the baby and looking for the internal intelligence to tell you what you are meant to do. So I was definitely looking, understanding, but I was also learning while bonding to my baby and spending lots of time with her. I was also learning what the bond was about, and that what I felt towards the baby was information I should trust more than the information that is in the book. And by the time I had my third child, I didn't care about books. I didn't care about understanding anymore. I paid so much attention to just bonding with the baby and relying on the information that comes to me through being with the baby. And that's why we managed to have Tallulah out of nappies.
Yeah.
That's why we managed to practice the
Communication.
elimination communication. I wouldn't be able to do it with my first baby.
Yeah.
It was my third baby, but I was so much more encouraged by that time to rely on the information that comes from the bonding, that comes from the seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that there is an element of seeing and to believe that, because we are, this 95% of our time now being an indoor species, we are so conditioned to babies being in nappies for a longer period of time to even have an idea or notion that babies aren't in nappies. And then you go, well, actually, for 95% of our evolution, there wasn't any nappies. And again, if we look at, I guess, in indigenous
yes, but
cultures,
people were naturally bonded. Yeah.
How are they doing
Yeah.
it? And they were naturally bonded. Yeah. So there is that. That's a good That's a good one to communicate.
Yeah,
that
and by
level
the
of
time I
communication.
had Bo, I didn't even have tendencies to think about how am I going to stop breastfeeding. I so completely just surrendered to the trust that the baby knows when they want to stop breastfeeding. And it turned out really well with Bo, you see. So,
Yeah.
of course, there is my own journey moving from trying to understand to not trying to understand and just rely on the intelligence of the mother-baby bond. So there is the journey. Yeah.
Yeah. Back to the elimination communication, or is it communication elimination? Either way.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a really powerful piece.
I think that's the most challenging for parents. Yeah.
Yeah, and also, because Chris Evans had me on Virgin Radio, and the first thing he started with was, "Come on, then, tell me how to get my baby out of nappies for this." And I started with actually the level of bonding and communication, to the point there would be a signal perhaps from Tallulah that you would pick up on, that no one else could pick up on that sign, because it's your really tight bond.
After a while, you could, and children
But
could
then
as well.
Once,
yeah.
And I voiced it this way, that because it's not just us, that bond, it's the baby picking up on the fact that you're picking up on the signal. Therefore, their opportunity for that signal can actually get stronger, and it gets more amplified in a way, because they're like, it's almost like, aha, they hear me. Aha, I'm being seen. They know I need to go to the toilet,
Yes.
right? And then that then can get louder or more expressive, let's call it, because they're not speaking. It's like, I need a shit right now. It's just basically, and there's a voice to it, right? Maybe it's just she is actually swearing at us, but there's a point to it, and then we could all go, that's what's happening.
Yeah, the intelligence of the bond then goes beyond mother and the baby. But it starts there because the baby grows in mother's womb. So obviously it starts there. But also it makes me think, in a society, when we talk about mothers and babies, we talk about, so often we try to look after the baby so the babies are healthy, and we try to look after the mother. It's like there is a saying, happy mother, happy baby, people would say. I think it's not about the baby and the mother, it's about the bond between mother and the baby. I think if in our heads we can hold that we are not looking after children separately and we are looking after mothers or parents separately, we actually need to take them as one to start with. We need to empower the one, the bond to start with. I think that can, it's just a different way of thinking, isn't it? Like even like if you think of social services or people who are here to protect children, we should be protecting the family. We should be protecting the bond, the family
unit,
not protecting the children separately from their parents.
Well, unless of course there's cases where that needs to happen, but we need to intervene.
Yes, but why are there cases like that? You know. So I think just, it's a different way of thinking. Let's think about the bond to start, because that's the healthy beginning of.
Yeah. And the reasons perhaps they're not healthy, is that a symptom of
the society
bonding that hasn't been met?
Yeah, because that wouldn't happen in nature.
Yeah.
So that's the society failing. It's not the parent failing the children. It's the society failing the family. Society failing the mother-baby bond.
Yeah, the mismatch, right? Of, again, relating it to running. I just had a running workshop, and the running, like taking people back to a natural form of running, not just take your shoes off and run, because you have to go back and rewild the form to what it would have been before we sat in chairs or used footwear in the first place that led to the injuries. So rather than symptom relief, we have to go in at the cause level. And then that could be communicated around sleep and rest and food and all these other fundamental needs. But that bond in itself is right back into the essence of all of it.
Yeah, because it's the source of the intelligence.
Yeah.
It's the source of the thing. Yeah. So that's what I thought about those during the night when I couldn't sleep.
Yeah, but it's profound, right?
Yeah, for me it is, yeah.
Yeah, I think for many now, they may have just heard that. It's like there's so much in there, and then that can feed into some of the questions, because there were some questions around co-sleeping and stuff like that.
Yeah, let's answer them.
Should we get in there?
Yeah, it's nice to talk. It's nice to talk about what people want.
I'm going to scroll through my phone now and ask questions. So the first one is from B Wild Man. There you go.
That's not for me.
No, it is, because it's a co-sleeping question, right? So co-sleeping. Men can ask women questions, Katarina.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we are in free society.
Right, co-sleeping with growing children. Or it could be presented this way, because we have 4 kids and there's 2 still co-sleeping and 2 aren't. And so, but they arrived at their own signal to not co-sleep anymore. Lola and me.
Yeah,
we didn't go,
so,
you got to move out. You got to move out. And we didn't push them into it. It was kind of a natural transition into.
Okay, so first of all, I'd like to say, when parents decide to co-sleep, you can always say, right, we all have had enough, this doesn't work, children have to be in their own bed. You can make that decision whenever you want to. I would say maybe if you co-sleep with a baby and the baby is 9 months old, 8 months old, that's probably not the best time to do it, because of the babies go through like a separation anxiety around that age. Yeah. So I would then wait probably until 18 months. Otherwise, parents can at any point have a communication with their child, and they can go through the process and they can work on children sleeping separately from parents. Yeah. Or you can make the choice just to wait for the child to tell you when they want to sleep on their own, which happens. They're not going to want to sleep with you for the rest of their life. Yeah. So I think in our case, because we moved house so often, our children took longer. Because of course, if you move location, that the security is to sleep with your parents. So Lola was 10 years old when she kind of said, right, I've had enough sleeping with mommy.
Well, I think there's also a man coming in.
She was showing signs of sleep, wanting to sleep on her own when she was 6.
Yeah.
But we moved and moved. Yes, so
it created a little instability.
Yeah, if people are living in the same location and children are familiar with their own bedroom, some children make that choice at the age of 5, 4, 6. In our case, it was a bit longer. We waited a bit longer, yeah. So now we have 2 older children sleeping on their own, and we still have 2 younger children in our bedroom waiting for them to tell us.
Yeah, to again create another signal, right?
Yes.
Yeah, to be seen. The 9-month period, separation anxiety, and then perhaps the Joseph Chilton Pearce overlay of that work into that early stages, like the first developmental stage, of having that real emotional need met, emotional development.
Well, because that's why some people believe that they have to condition the child to sleep in their own cot from like early beginnings. Yeah, because then it's easier when they're older. I guess there is some truth in it. So if you want a childcare at when your child is 9 months old, then that is probably a good idea to start early. But if you are relaxed and there is no push and there is no need for you to sleep separately from your child, you can just take it easy.
Yeah, I guess there's a little confusion in there, isn't there? Because it's in one breath we have creating this bond. Yeah. And the bond perhaps being like the real mismatch of perhaps the later years malaise, right? The illnesses and God knows what else that we might be seeing, are they linked to perhaps not having that secure enough foundation in the first place, right? And then there's, well, how long does it take really to develop that true bond? And
well, this is the thing.
And then like between detached and attached, and then it's complex.
If you have true bond, you don't really want to sleep without your baby. I would say bonded mother doesn't really want her baby to be too far from her. But at the same time, people have all sorts of challenges and they have to live in all sorts of conditions. And there are working parents, there are single moms. And some parents just need that baby to sleep on their own. Can't.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to find solution for their for their life as much as they can. So even though I believe so much in that bond, we can't be telling people what they are doing is wrong.
No, I'm actually thinking just getting it to this co-looping with growing children. So it's a specific from one person that's asking that. So in an ideal of that, you could bring in kind of Joseph Chilton Pearce's work of understanding that if you take a child more than 12 feet away from its mother, it can become incoherent, right?
Yeah, but that's only babies.
And you bring it back in, and then it becomes coherent. And then at around 9 months to a year, we recognize we're I, so we identify I. So there'd be a perfect opportunity would be in that first phase, right? To be still connected and in that phase.
Yes.
And as they're maturing, I guess, because that bond will be more secure, or the child perhaps will feel more secure. If you get that early stuff right, then you can trust in their communication of this is the time I'm done right now with the co-sleeping.
I see now what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Yes, that if the child is safely bonded to their parents, the child feels safe to then say, I've had enough, I want to sleep on my own. And you can trust that the child will make the choice when it's appropriate.
Yeah. Which again is hugely empowering for the child to have made that decision.
Yes.
Yeah. And what we haven't had, and I know I used to do it all the time when I was a kid. I used to keep going. So I'd have a nightmare. I'd be in my parents' room. I'd do this, and the more opportunity I could get back in there, and I'd want to sleep in my parents' bed. Growing up. Whereas we don't.
Yes.
It doesn't happen with Lola and Millie.
Yeah, it could be that the more it's forbidden, and you take it away from the children, the more they ask for it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you leave it to them, then they make the choice very freely and naturally.
Because
they're mature to make the choice.
Again, it could relate to the lack of or need not being met.
Yeah, the going out of parents' bed was their choice. It wasn't taken away from them, and that's why it makes them feel very safe. Yes.
Yeah, back to the elimination communication. It's along those lines of you've been seen, right? And again, like even with Bowman, Bo was breastfed up until the age of 4. He kind of made the decision, right? Yeah, for my 4th birthday, I want to sleep in the bell tent, and we were going to have a fire, and it was just Bowman and me, and we.
He just got bored of breastfeeding, I would say.
That was his decision.
Yes, yeah.
So that enabled that, and then he was done, and that's amazing, right?
And it was done without single
because
tea.
when you're really in it, you think, well, I'm there thinking, I'm wondering when he might stop breastfeeding now. Because in my head, we have templates, don't we? And it's always like, surely when they get to a stage when it's like, it's almost like it's just there and on tap, it's like, oh, I want some milk now. Milk, yes. Maybe then that's there, but there is a developmental stage of that, right? Which is Joseph Chilton Pearce's work again, right?
Yeah, no, first of all, the Chilton Pearce or the natural approach would say, again, you trust the baby to make the choice when they want to stop breastfeeding. That's what you would do in nature, yeah? But what Chilton Pearce was talking about was that for conceiving a boy, you need extra strong sperms. Whereas for conceiving a girl, they don't have to be extra strong, they just have to be strong. So as if in nature, girls were designed to be stronger survivors. They survive. Whereas boys, to start with, are much more tender. And many mothers would say, oh, boys are so, my girls, they were so running around, and my boys, they were so just sitting on my lap. Some mothers would say so, describe boys as more tender to girls. So Chilton Pearce's opinion was that boys are more tender at the beginning because they have to be the male in the future. So interestingly, the tenderness that they get from the mother at the beginning doesn't turn them into a weak man. It makes them secure and allows them to step away from the mother and become secure male. So the kind of the cuddling and the tenderness and the breastfeeding and giving the young boy as much as they want to doesn't make them weaker, it makes them stronger. That's what the book was about. What it was also saying that if there is a trauma in a childhood, early childhood of a girl and a boy, so the girls, they just get on with it. So they have a trauma, but they get on with it. Whereas if a boy has got the same trauma and disattachment from mother, they get really broken.
The Nat Life Pod is a platform for conversation to help close the gap between wellness as an industry and wellness as a state of being. This is also what underpins our online community, the Nat Life Tribe. The Nat Life Tribe is a growing health and natural lifestyle community where we offer weekly natural movement sessions, breathwork sessions, and hold a check-in safe space for the community to share, connect, and raise a hand if help is needed. This is a great space to embody the practices that we often speak to on the Nat Life Pod. Full details on how to join the Nat Life Tribe are in the show notes. I hope to see you moving, breathing, and sharing in there real soon. Right, so next question. You ready for the next one? So this one, Gabby Bewell. It's a nice name, Gabby Bewell. Would love to know more about the homeschooling, unschooling. And a love heart. There you go.
Maybe first information, which is nice to say, is that homeschooling, unschooling is completely legal in UK, which is amazing because is not possible in every country in Europe. And homeschooling, unschooling just allows you to lead very different lifestyle. which is amazing as well. Your life is less about work and free time and learning and play. Your life is more just inclusive. So work and play and learn becomes just one, that's what I really love about that lifestyle, that you are not separated into summer holidays and school days. It is all just one. Our children learn all the time, even during summer holidays. To them, learning is not a bother.
There's no time on it, so it could be 7 a.m. or it could be. They could be at the table doing something at 7 pre-brekkie, or
like they chase me, like, "Mummy, you promised we do reading. We haven't done reading. Mummy, you promised." They chase me. I don't chase them. So it's a beautiful way of life. Yeah.
How about then the difference between homeschooling and unschooling? How about we unpack
That's
that?
a nice way to address it.
Yeah.
So the official word is educating your children at home. So we are educating our children at home. Unschooling is more of a philosophy, how you educate your children at home. Homeschooling is more of a philosophy, how you educate your children. So homeschool traditionally would be like you do school at home. So you still have set timetable. Some parents choose to prepare their children for exams. They still go and sit key stage exams. They follow national curriculum. So more or less what is done at school is done at home. That's more of like a philosophy of home schooling. Whereas unschooling is you educate your children and you try to forget what's done at school. You don't do it the way it's done at school. Like the learning doesn't happen like at school. It's not me creating classes.
A curriculum.
And following curriculum. The learning happens as a conversation between child and parent, what they want to learn, when they want to learn it.
Communication
it's
again.
Much more creative. There is no exams. Our children don't sit in exams. Nobody checks on their progress. It's much more flowy approach to education. And also I see it as a natural approach to education.
Yeah, it feels much more aligned with the beginning of this sitting up in bed epiphany kind of.
Yeah, it's unschooling, I would say, is child-led. So you allow the child to guide their own learning and I would say choose what they want to learn and when they want to learn it, which just like children have ability to make decision when they want to breastfeed and make decision when they don't want to sleep with parents anymore. Children have very strong innate ability to make decisions about what they want to learn.
And when they're ready to do so.
And when they're ready to do so.
And that's also, I feel, is an important message around unschooling, again, and not having the curriculum or the structure of time in amongst that. Because we're all, in a way, or I have been, trying to coach myself through processes where I can get into relearn how to find flow state, and yet not given time restraints or curriculum or structured timing means that you can really expand on that. And if you haven't had it removed, you don't need to regain it. And the thing that I've loved most through the process is when they are just fully immersed in it, like they've made the decision of whatever it is that they feel they need in that moment, and without putting any brakes on it, where they can actually go with it is really quite profound, how deep they can be immersed. And I guess to the refinement of that over time is, I guess, Lola and Millie's creative work, their expressions, like you can see it, not that you don't see that in Bowman and Tallulah's, but theirs is being nurtured, or it's opening up, expanding. But when I see some of the work that Lola and Millie, the output they have, it's just, blown away by it. I'm absolutely blown away, but it's being given the length, the time, the window of time to be able to express fully, right?
Yeah, and also, maybe structure and timetable isn't a good word, but people still enjoy routines. And we do enjoy certain So it's nice to see that our children, the older they are, they have ability to create their own structures and routines. So I had the agreement with Lola to finish a project by certain date, and she managed to stick to that timetable. She actually enjoyed it, so it wasn't restricting her in her learning. She chose to give herself a deadline. Okay, I'm going to. So I'm saying it. I'm just trying to say. I'm saying this just so people don't misunderstand that living in flow doesn't mean
You
not
don't have
having
deadlines to me.
Yeah, not having ability to structure yourself or to be disciplined or to do something by certain date. They like their own discipline themselves. Yeah, when they're older, the younger children prefer being more spontaneous.
Yeah,
Yeah,
is a much more playful state. Yeah.
Like when you were writing a book, right? Writing a book is a nice example because you have to be in that flow, creative flow. You can't sit down and force yourself to have an idea. And yet, writing a book means you have to be able to get up and to be disciplined and to write a couple of hours every day. So there has to be both creative flow
because you have deadlines.
And certain discipline. And I can see it in our unschooled children as well. So they are allowed to be in the creative flow. They can choose every day what they want to do. And yet they naturally have the ability to be disciplined, structured, do certain tasks every day, and finish things by certain date.
Yeah, it's powerful to hear, right? Because again, that's child-led learning. They've led themselves to their own understanding of what that time frame needs to be or what the structure looks like within it.
Because you hear parents saying, well, if I don't teach my child discipline, how are they going to learn? Or if I don't teach my child, just like people say, oh, if I don't tell my child when to stop breastfeeding, or if I don't condition my child to sleep on their own, how are they going to learn? They just are. Yeah. So children just are going to learn how to be disciplined and structured because it's a need that comes naturally from their own lives. Yeah. Another question.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just staring at you, darling. Just like, oh, I love you. So this is Jem Takes Photos. Jem, you've scuppered me a little. So it's how to stay motivated with from scratch healthy cooking when it's new to us. And for me, I always feel like when something's new, I'm actually really motivated because it's a new thing. I guess it's how do we sustain that? Perhaps would be a, once you started healthy cooking, right, from scratch.
For me, is the word motivated because my motivation is it's healthier, and that keeps me going. And the more of healthier and healthier and healthier you eat, then it might happen on an odd occasion you have a takeaway, or on odd occasion you just have sandwich, but you actually feel bad after that. At least for me, that's how I perceived it when I started with healthier cooking or healthier eating, that I actually felt bad. Or I felt sick after, eating food that wasn't
like the intolerance of it over
and
time.
then I have to digest the food and I go like, oh, what have I done to myself? And that's my motivation. So I go, no, tomorrow morning I'm cooking my own breakfast from scratch. I'm not getting croissant from
when was the last time you had a croissant?
Long time ago. But that was my motivation.
Yeah.
If people are talking about how to stay motivated, well, that's the motivation. You actually feel bad if you don't cook from scratch. So that's my motivation, cooking from scratch. I feel good on it.
Yeah. I love it. I think it's, I'm motivated because I actually also like food, and I think the closer I can get it to its source, actually, the better it tastes. And it gets to a point, actually, and we've had this conversation with friends in the past, and it's like, I don't want to eat out because actually it's far better food to eat in.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
feel actually really bad eating out now. It's like,
It's so funny. Am I becoming a recluse? But it's not. I mean, I love the social experience of it. It's almost like that's the other thing, isn't it? That our social experiences also rotate around food so much, right? But I think that the more natural it is, the more organic it is, and then you go organic, and then you go beyond organic, and this will speak to another question that's in there about the environment of the home. There is a tolerance and an intolerance, right? It's like, I think the more crap you remove, like the chemicals, refined sugars, additives, you could call it preservatives, or the P could be pesticides or processed. The more and more that you remove, actually, that's a motivation, because you just realize how well you feel. And also,
yeah.
it's like forgetting that it's a mere baby on the timeline, those food groups for us. So, of course, it's like we're an experiment in terms of what we had 95% of revolution versus this very small mere baby on a timeline, which is getting tinier and tinier and tinier as time goes on, right? As the more things that are more processed, more refined, more additives, more pesticides that are coming in with it. And I often get hit with, yeah, but Tony, what about moderation? And to which that motivates me as well, because it's like, yeah, but moderation. Like, let's think Tony at Tallulah Bowman's age. Again, the natural food sources are getting more and more compromised, even because of the soil, right? So we have that. Then we have the abundance of those food groups that we're actually discussing removing ourselves from are just exploding. And I had like one sweetie shop in the whole of my village growing up, right? And you'd go in with your pocket money, it'd be once a week, and you might get a bag of sweeties, but it's everywhere now, right? So even the moderation, it's like the motivation for me also is like even just, it's like going hunting, to find real food and really good organic food, and then going back to cook that wonderful food. And that's my motivation, it feels, to really truly nourish oneself.
Yeah. For me, it's feeling better.
Mm.
If I feel better, I also look better.
Yeah.
That's a huge motivation, isn't it? Health and feeling good in your own body.
Yeah, and thinking clearer and
I started with healthy cooking when I was at university, when I was studying full time, working part time. And I still found time to go to local farmers market and get my veggies and get my food and cook my food. I didn't have many friends in the student house. Student camp is called. Yeah, there were not many students cooking as much as I was, because students study and eat out or eat in the canteen or just take fast food, right?
Yeah.
And I still found on that little electrical cooker I had, I still was interested and motivated to cook from scratch, made me feel better.
Yeah. Again, it's a fundamental need, right? So how can we make that as more aligned with nature? How about that for the motivation? It's like to really truly get that need met. There's a motivation, right? Versus just food. The two polarities of that, what food would look like in real nature and what food would look like in the real, look at the extremes of that, sorry, would be good. The polarities around real human zoo versus nature, and who really would get their food need met, That's a motivation. How do I get it more over there, I think the environment one, if I can find it, I have a little look through here. Here we go. How do you recommend introducing more natural home environment? Yeah, I guess it's how do you introduce more nature into the home, right? And I think firstly, it's how do you remove the stuff from the home that isn't natural. So I think I've been actually speaking to this recently with someone, and they were staying in Miami in this exclusive apartment that was worth millions, and they walk in and it's like and air, like the air fresheners and softeners and stuff like that. That's when you've removed it, there's then the intolerance again. You feel it. Whereas if you haven't removed it, you probably don't. But if you go and visit someone's home and you have, you'll soon pick up on it. It's like there's that. So fragrances, and then switching to products again that aren't just harmful to the home, they're further harmful to the environment. So maybe it's when you make the decisions within the home, they're personal and planetary. So it's looking at to improve your property for personal and 3Ps: property, personal, planetary. It's kind of looking at that. Then 4Ps, products, right, that help support that. And not a P would be like the materials and fabrics in the home. And this is very, what can I call it, budget dependent, this conversation, right? Because it depends on what you can fund, right? So I think the removal of is the easiest part because it doesn't cost you anything. Actually removing things like fabrics, so air fresheners, right? And can you maybe, for the price of an air freshener, buy something that you could smudge the home with, in that sense, or essential oils, something like that, along those lines. And then fabrics, it's like, how do you make the materials of which you sleep in your bed, your pillows, whatever they are? Could it be, I can afford a pillowcase this month, or my budget allows me to do the whole spread in one, and then making that as organic, that expression, as possible. And the reason you want to really be inclusive of thinking more bedroom than anything, if you leave the home for 9 hours a day, you're going to be in your bedroom for 8 hours of that day. So it's likely it's that room you're probably spending the most time in, between workspace and bedroom space. Workspace you might not have any control or ability to change, but your home space you can, and specifically the bedroom. I think that's the most important. Air quality in that bedroom space, air purifier, plants, and then the fabrics that might be bringing more impurities in, and understanding that the skin is one of the largest organs of absorption. So you want whatever's touching that skin, again, to be as organic as possible. Then we could go a bit step further. Like there's a mattress topper that's on the floor that's organic, so it's organic wool. That's no longer a bed, it's a mattress topper that then can be rolled away. And this can speak to the unschooling, homeschooling community, or people perhaps that live in apartments, that we pay an awful amount of money for square footage, and yet we fill it with furniture. So in a more natural home would be to create a more minimalistic space. So that mattress topper can actually roll up and you can air it, and then it clears a whole room. So if you're part of the working from home massive, you now have an extra office space or room. And if there's two of you working from home, you're not going to drive each other nuts, because, you don't have to work in a room that perhaps the whole room is filled up with a gigantic bed. That, again, speaking to that, makes you'll become more grounded, and the bed itself is less compliant because it's on a stiff surface. I'll explain stiffness and compliance for a moment. So if you jump up and down...
You're going on a tangent.
I know, I'm not. I'm bringing this is important. If you jump up and down on a hard surface, what gives you all the hard surface? Well, it's you, so you can soften. If you jump up and down on something that's really soft, you become stiff because the surface is soft. So if you were to sit on soft couches, you find yourself in really awkward sitting positions that aren't quite familiar with how that would look in a natural environment or a natural home. But not only that, you'll also stiffen in those shapes. And the same for a bed. If a bed is quite compliant, and you also need to consider then what's in the mattress, you can become quite stiff in those forms. So most people, and this will speak to Sam Hayes, who we just had on the pod recently, who was a chronic pain sufferer. She found comfort from going to the floor because, again, she wasn't waking up stiff. There's also Cora in the Nat Life tribe who's 70 something, and she followed these guidelines, these protocols within the home of how to just bring more nature in, or more natural expressions within the home. And as a 70-year-old, she was then waking up from ground sleeping. She said, I could then dance down the stairs. That was quite profound, So speaking to the stiffness compliance, she instead of waking up and going, ooh, ah, hobbling down the stairs, she was dancing down the stairs. It removed her back pain. So I think that's an important one. So that for the natural home, right? So materials within the home. You could go right down a rabbit hole and look at grounding and the influences of EMF. You could look at clay paints. you know, what you want to paint your walls in so they're less toxic. And then the final ingredient, right, and I think speaks to all of what we've spoken to at the beginning as well, is lighting. Okay, so lighting, you have to think of nature, because 95% of our time outdoor species, yeah, now we're 95% of our time indoors, so we miss out on all the valuable cycles of light. And we live on light, don't we, Katarina? Are we living on light? And that light signals certain rhythms in the body, like the circadian rhythm, digestion, you could say insulin, melatonin. All those really important cycles are governed by light. And your suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is like your internal clock in a sense. So when the lights go down or off, it's melatonin off. And when the lights go on, ding, when the lights go off, melatonin on. And when the lights go on, it's melatonin off. And that supports a really important hormonal cycle, which is healing for cells. And so that you'll know when you have kids, if you were to have amber lighting installed in your home and it gets to a certain point at night and you put those on, the kids will start to quieten down. If you were to put bright lights on, it's like you've given them candy. Yeah, they're suddenly upregulated again, and it's great to observe kids because we've just been conditioned as that's normal for us. But I think lighting is the key, really. I think perhaps temperature, get the temperature down at night as well, because what happens when the sun goes down, the light changes. It prepares certain sleepy hormones. It prepares human growth hormone, but it also is the temperature will go down at night. So, how do we prepare the home? I guess firstly is to think of what it would look like in nature without a home. And nature is your home. You don't have a house anymore. So what would that appear like? So the light changes, the air would be different. The materials within the home would be different. That's all I'm going to say. Or read Be More Human. Should we go back to that? Rabbit hole. I know, but I was in it, and I was in my flow state, Katarina. I wasn't prepared to put the brakes on.
Perfect.
Yeah? Are you happy with that one?
Yes. You answered that question amazingly.
Oh, it was done. How do you recommend introducing more natural nature in the home? Done that one. Okay, here we go. So exciting. So this is Jem Takes Photos. So exciting. We'd love to know both of your favorite book recommendations. Right. Firstly, Be More Human. Yep. Fine. Over to you. I feel like I'm voiced enough for a moment. Oh, you, darling.
Okay, so when it comes to parenting, my most favorite are Continuum Concept.
Yep.
Continuum Concept.
Yep.
I forgot who wrote it.
Liedloff.
Yeah, my absolutely favorite author is Joseph Chilton Pearce.
Yeah.
I googled recently. He died around 3-4 years ago, and now there is already all sorts of charities and campaigns trying to continue in his vision. Yeah, Joseph Chilton Pearce. Any of his books are amazing.
Can you name some?
Magical Child.
Yeah, because I think that's been the.
But there are also like philosophical one, Cracking the Cosmic Egg, and the Heart Math Science. So that talks about the awakening of the heart, the intelligence of the heart, the ability to see through your heart. That's one of my most favorite. Peter Gray, Free to Learn.
Yeah, we're aiming at getting Peter Gray on, so that's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to that conversation. We can both be on that. And
he is very, he's very grounded. He's also a scientist, so he's less going the spiritual way, but he's very solid, and he speaks very simply and clearly about learning and those topics. So very good book.
I have a few. So there's I'd say I think the Free to Learn, that Peter Gray, and can't wait to get Peter on here, right? I also think Last Child in the Woods, Richard Louv, and just aligning that work with Gem, because it's the, are we not seeing the symptoms we're seeing today? Are we just missing something with what the cause is? And it aligns me with that, what I'm now calling this mismatch malaise, not seeing all the recent studies. Or if I spend 20 minutes in nature, then I lower my heart rate, blood pressure. It's also helping kids with ADHD and other symptoms. But yet we're not thinking, well, is it because I've just been removed from nature is why I have those symptoms? So I like his, and that's quite an old book, that, but I think it's absolutely brilliant, Richard Louv. I think the breath work, the books on breath work, I think are very powerful for parenting, which will improve every relationship and their relationship as a parent with a child. And I think for parents that are working, I think it's really important to get a handle on breath, because you'll be you, authentically you in the home, rather than stressed out mama, papa, whoever you are, and kids getting bashed when all they're doing is playing or being their authentic self, and we end up suppressing it because of our own perhaps templates. So I think the breath, I think like Oxygen Advantage, brilliant. Patrick McEwen. I also think James Nestor's book Breathe, but I also think Be More Human, of course, there's a great chapter on breathing in there. That's by Tony Riddle. But yeah, I think the breath work, I think that's really key. Next up, Tall Green Sky Rivers. Also, how are you?
I'm very well.
That's a nice one, isn't it?
Yeah. Nice one.
Checking in, see how you're doing. If you could give your young self some advice, what would it be?
Yeah, for me, it would help if I knew what young they mean. 6, 10, 15, 20, 30.
Well, for me, I'd go, personally, if that was asked to me, I would go into the time when I think I possibly would have needed that advice. So when I think of like Tony out of control, but then actually it could have been, Tony back there like sitting on top of the stairs at home as a 4-year-old. But the time and stuff was really playing out for me would have been a specific timeline.
For me, again, if you go back in your life and you think, if my life happened differently, I wouldn't be who I am now. So it's a tricky question to ask, because
that's a great way of answering it, though.
Had I been told something else at the age of 16, would I be Katarina now? I wouldn't be. So in a way, difficult to answer, right?
I think that is the answer, because I've been asked it in the past,
Yeah, yeah. But I do wish throughout my childhood or when I was young, I was encouraged more to trust my inner self. Because sometimes I can see my life as having that internal wisdom, going away from it, going through all these understanding and studying and doing this and exploring that, and yet coming back to myself, which is the internal wisdom that was there from the very beginning. Yeah. So sometimes I think, oh, shame we don't live in a world where we are just encouraged to be ourselves and look for internal wisdom within ourselves right from the early childhood. That's why I tell our children, well, darling, I don't really have the answers. The real answers are actually within you. But if you want my opinion.
That's nice.
So I'm encouraging our children from very early childhood to actually trust themselves and trust the wisdom that is within them.
So maybe that advice.
But maybe the journey, losing that and having to find it, is again that what makes me me. So
I guess it could be a different way of looking at this question then, right? Because this will bring it right. It's a good place to maybe close as well, but is to perhaps we reframe it. Where is it? Because it brings it right back to the bond again. Because in order to be able to trust that inner self, you have to
be allowed
be
to
allowed
do it.
to be seen.
Yes.
To
Yeah.
feel like you're seen. So if you could give if they were willing to hear you, if you could give your younger parents, yeah, and of course your dad's not here now, but as younger parents, advice, what would it be?
Well, again, so when I had my children, when our children were little, when Lola was a baby, I had all these thoughts. Oh, I wish my parents knew this, and I wish my parents raised me differently, and I wish. But again, it's nonsense to think that. Because, first of all, it makes you feel like you are better or smarter than your parents, which you're not. We are just born at different time, and different knowledge or information was available to us. We are not better people to those who had babies in 70s or 80s. Yeah. So trying to give advice to my mom is rather arrogant thing to do. Yeah. I think my mom, with whatever she did or didn't do, was perfect mother for me.
There you go.
And that's what made me me. So again, I came to conclusion that my parents were perfect parents for me.
Yeah. And one could say you chose them for that path.
Yeah, some believe so, yeah.
It's really nice for others to hear that also, because we have this often on the coaching certification, because ultimately things head towards, like, if we're discussing microbiome, or we're discussing the home, or we're discussing movement, or any of those subjects, it goes into what are the natural templates of that. So any parents in the room are often like, there's a moment in there, and then we bring breath in and we down-regulate everyone so they can then hear again, because otherwise the barriers have gone up, right? And they're almost like, I can't hear this, or emotions come through. And often it's, we can only do what we have in what we're presented with, right? And
Yes.
I often speak to, well, okay, give you an idea of my upbringing, right? And I went into a life of chaos in my teens, all the way up until 38, really, if I think about where my head was, right? And I'm sitting here now, and at any moment, you can be whoever and be anything you want to be. That's the most extraordinary times.
But also it makes me think now what I mentioned at the beginning, that rather than concentrating on child and parent separately, we need to concentrate on the bond. Yeah. So, yes, my mom put me into nursery when I was 4 months old baby, but she didn't have a choice. She lived in a socialist country. Everybody did that. That's what was encouraged. Your mom gave birth to you in 1975, and she was told that giving baby a formula is better than breastfeeding.
Well, also take the baby away and put them in a room with hundreds of other babies for 24 hours is also a good thing to do. Yeah.
So how is that your or my mom's fault?
Yeah.
Maybe internally the bonding was going on, and they felt, ooh, I'm not sure this is the best thing for me and my baby. But the society literally discouraged them to listen to the information that was coming from the bonding. And it wasn't their fault. They're not bad mothers.
No.
They loved us as much as we love our children.
Yeah.
They just lived at different times and they had different chances. And also, when it comes to healthy food, they had different information coming to them. Yes, like your mom wasn't aware of healthy breakfast as much as you are. But we could argue
Well,
it's the times she lived at. It wasn't necessarily just her choice. That's why I think what I'm trying to say is, as parents, we need to take personal, or as parents, we need to take personal responsibility for our choices. That's true, and who we are. But we are also part of a system, part of a historical evolution, part of we live in a certain part of the world. We're all influenced by the philosophies, by the beliefs of our times. So, so the change has to come from within of every parent, but the change has to come into investment into healthy relationship of parent and child.
Yeah. And well, for communities to see that. Because otherwise it feels like the responsibility is on the mother and the child or the close unit family. And actually what we need to be perhaps doing is creating that smaller community, and then that can then look at wider society. But really the emphasis or shining a light on the bond, that's where the concentration or the energy should be going.
Yeah.
Again, we have men's and women's circles, but what about parent-child circles?
Yeah.
Again, it's in separation, right?
Yeah,
it's not
like
inclusive.
Also going back to parents is we see ourselves as babies or children who suffered because our parents didn't do this and didn't do that. But try to see your parents as they also suffered. So for me, I had a stage in my life when I started concentrating on how my and my mother's bond suffered.
So it's the bond that's suffering,
Yes.
not the mother, not the child, the bond.
Not just I suffered because of this and that. My mom also suffered because of this and that. Ultimately, it's the bond that suffered.
So going at cause level.
Yeah, that's the way how I see it now. Which brings us to family constellations in a way.
There's a question. Can I get to that? Can I ask the
Yeah.
question? Because, hold it. There is a question here. I really need to have glasses on, despite blowing up my screen. Here we go. Move, breathe, relax. Thank you, Move, breathe, relax. Interested to hear about the family constellation course. Thank you, Simon. Glasses just threw across the corner of the room. Love that. Interested to hear how they look. They're great.
Amazing.
Yeah. Oof. Interested to hear about the family constellations course Katarina did, and if Katarina is up for sharing.
Yeah, I'm still doing it.
Yes.
So it's not final or whatever. I'm still doing the constellation course. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
You mentioned family constellation to me, so it comes from you. You introduced me to that. And then as I started exploring the topic, I got interested in it. And I think the reason why I got interested in it is because it looks at family or as an individual as a system. Yeah. So I always like to say that if I want to change the world, I have to start from myself, which is true. We all have to take personal responsibility if we want to change something. And the place to start with is myself. However, I can't do it on my own. So once I address myself as the starting point of a change, there is the realization we are all interconnected and we all depend on one another. So we live in a bigger system. We live in relationships, we live in family. The bond between mother and child could be seen as a system, right? Is a relationship between two beings and other beings. We are in a system of larger family, which involves parents, grandparents, aunties, siblings. We are in a system of society, state, and ultimately planet. Planet is one big system. As humans are part of a system of relationship of humans, plants, and animals, and the nature. So
systems theory.
yeah, so family constellation looks at life of an individual from the perspective of as a part of a system, family system. And because I like, talking a lot about family, for me is a natural way to go to then explore the family constellations. And yes, and I hope I will be able to help other people to address their issues, family issues. Yeah. Yeah.
I guess it's knowing what it is, right? For those that have no idea what family constellation is. So for me, it dropped in a very important figure in our lives, which was Yehudi Gordon. If we can't speak to parenting really and natural birthing even, or Joseph Chilton Pearce, because it's Yehudi that really dropped those seeds in. He was like the elder within our community in a sense like that, right? It was just like, tick, tick, tick. And he said, Tony, you need to go and see Nicola Dunn. You need to go and do family constellation work. And that was, man, how many moons ago was that? It was like 9 years ago, I think, or something like that. No, the retreat I did, I think, with her was around.
Could be 9 years
I think
ago.
it's longer. Yeah. It was I was still at Gloves then. So that's over 10 years then. That's more like, because the gym closed in 2014. Yeah, it's over 10 years. That's nuts. So anyway, over 10 years ago. And he said, don't do it for you, do it for your kids. So it relates perfectly to the parenting again. That was something for me. It was like, I don't do it for me. And I had no idea about what family constellations were. It was just go to this thing. And so I was completely naked in that sense of what that would be, and arrived at a space and sat in a circle and had no idea what that was or what I was going to experience. So it was like a real beginner's mind. And I think that was quite extraordinary because I didn't have any background on it. So, and then when I started to then see what was going on in the room, there was an element of this, I think they must be just playing, like they're just acting because they know Nicola, or, so there was an element of cynic. I could not believe what I was witnessing. So I'm going to speak to it from what the experience I had, right? Yeah. So there were 16 people 16 chairs. So there were one of those chairs for Nicola. So there were like 14 other chairs, and there was one spare chair next to Nicola. And people would go with issues, and whatever that issue might be, it could be anything. So anyway, I won't mention anyone's names or anything like that, but one particular one, she sat straight next to Nicola, and Nicola immediately would just be just so in that, like, the seeing or that understanding. She's
very good at seeing.
Has so much of that available, so in abundance, I would say. And she says, tell me your heart's desire. And, and that person immediately started crying. There was go and pick someone to represent you, and someone to represent your partner, someone to represent mum, someone to represent dad. And in the confidentiality of that work, I can't speak to too much of it, but it was quite profound because I was picked as dad. And I suddenly found myself with these feelings that weren't my feelings. They were dad's feelings, right? But they were uncontrollable feelings. Like, to the moment, I couldn't bear to be standing next to the woman who's actually meant to be my wife right now in this communication. So I start stepping away from her, and I'm actually sweating and feel like, oh my God, I can't actually bear to be next to this person. And yet she was going through probably what the mum was going through, is the person that's been picked for mum. So I'm picked as dad, and the other person, who was one of those people in the circle who's called a representative, is pulled out to be mum. And she starts trying to saddle up next to me. So as I'm moving away, she keeps moving towards me. And then it gets to the point I actually I'm turning my back on her because I'm just trying to just block it. And then I look to someone else in the circle, and the whole thing gets stopped, and that person gets brought in. And as they stand up, I'm now collapsed on the floor, and I'm suffering from the grief that the dad was experiencing, you know, as because he lost someone, and that was the person that was now brought in, and that's who they were, almost like the conduit for that emotion. Just so powerful to be overwhelmed by emotions like that then it made sense to me. I was like, okay, so they're not actually playing, they have no choice in this decision. It's like you are just that, you've become the dad, not you're no longer Tony almost in that, but you can still communicate. I can say, all right, how do you feel? When I feel this, and it's the feeling of how the papa in that experience is feeling. And then when it finally five rounds of that in, it's my turn, and I'm sitting there, and Nicola says, and I'd been to lunch, and I came back from lunch. I said, you know what, Nicola, I don't feel like I've got the stuff going on that these guys have got going on. I mean, it's like I just don't, and I also don't have enough like information about my family. They seem to like really know a lot about their families, right? Because I guess they'd been before, so I thought that played a part in it. And Nicola said, Tony, would you like to come and sit here? So I sit next to Nicola, and she put her hand on my knee, and she just went, so tell me about your dad. No, that's it. Before that, after I'd said, I don't feel like, and she said, we're C. And it was in that moment I knew it was going to hit me. Anyway, she said, tell me about your dad. And I sobbed a bit, and I just said, you know, I love my dad. My dad loves me. But there felt like there was some kind of, I've never hugged him, or whatever that looked like. And then she pieced together this whole play again. And
it's not a play.
No, but I mean, but you observe it like it's a play.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I love about it. It's that the family system is playing out before your very eyes, right?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah, so just for those who have no idea what family constellation is, just very quickly to say that is a form of certain therapy where people sit in the circle, one person brings their own personal issue they would like to work on. And then in relation to that issue, the constellation who holds the constellation advises on what representatives to choose. So usually people choose representatives of their parents or siblings or grandparents. And the unexplainable, almost magical moment starts when the representative is chosen. The representative has to agree that they're willing to represent the family member of the issue holder. And as soon as the representative stands up and enters the space, they're overwhelmed by certain feelings. Like you said, when you were father, you just couldn't explain the feeling towards that woman who was representative of your wife. So that's what happened. As a representative, you enter certain information that comes to you through your body or your feelings, and you can't explain it. But that information serves as a play or is something to observe for the issue holder and for the holder of the constellation, for the constellator. So that's the facilitator. Yeah. That's the information then you can work with. And that's the information that reveals the hidden trauma that comes from your family, but is carried by the issue holder. And then you can work with that trauma that is in the issue holder's unconscious.
Yeah,
and like Yehudi said, don't do it for you, do it for your children. I actually think you do it for everyone. You do it for yourself because it's your issue. It's something that bugs you in your own personal life. It can be illness or feeling you can't explain or repetition of failings or not ability to remain in relationship or feelings of being excluded constantly. There are many issues people can bring.
Why does it keep presenting itself?
And usually it's issue you just can't tackle, and you can't explain why you can't tackle it. Yeah. So
if we were to think,
so you do it for yourself, the constellation is your issue.
Yeah.
But that's the system. So because you're part of a bigger system, by helping yourself, you're helping your children, and you're helping your parents, and you're helping the whole system
dynamic
in a certain way. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I saw that in my family. I saw relationships changing. I also had to learn that the relationship had also changed for me. You know, and there's the dynamics do change, but for the better, of course, because you're healing something. You're healing that
something,
wound is.
And the family constellation, the healing will always go towards involving that was excluded, healing that was hurt. Yeah,
Entanglements.
Yes, it works towards whole and love rather than excludement and judgment.
Yeah, we were speaking to it here at the weekend, the guys that were here for the running workshop, and that it ran through my family until it ran into me. It supports that because you are the point when you're doing the work. Then you can prevent it then from it ran in my family, it ran in my family, it ran in my family. You're almost the wall that stands up and turns your back on that and says, I'm now working with this, you know?
Yeah, you are running my family until it ran into me unconsciously. Somehow you entangled yourself, or you agreed to carry the pain.
Or burden almost, right?
Yeah, that has been in your family. Somehow you entangled yourself with it and agreed to carry it in a certain way. So the constellation allows you to then see it for yourself. Like you said, it's like a play in front of your eyes.
That's what I love.
In a way, it's very visual. So you see it for yourself. Oh, this is what I'm carrying.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nicola calls it beautifully, waking up from a dream. You awake from a dream. You look at the issue from a very different systemic perspective.
Seeing.
You see it, yeah.
Yeah, rather than
you don't understand
other forms of therapy could be dancing around it, talking about it. And I understand it, but it could be you're again not seeing it, you know, for what it is, feeling it. You know, it's less visceral, tangible.
Because you might not understand your parents, but you can still see them. Yeah.
What about the history? I think it's worth because that's kudos to the origins of it. I think it's always important, right?
Well, it started with a man called Bert Hellinger in Germany. But in a way, the wisdom of family constellation is ancient, because in other forms it has been practiced in indigenous cultures for many years. But in the form we practice it in Europe and the form we approach it in Europe was, I would say, formulated or established by Bert Hellinger. So Bert Hellinger was German. He was a priest, where he spent some time with the Zulu tribe.
Oh, the Zulus, yeah.
And he observed them for a while. Then he returned. He left the priesthood behind, and he got interested in all sorts of forms of psychotherapy. He was a very educated, philosophical man. And I know, I can't name everything right now, but I know he got familiar with many approaches from modern psychology. I'm sure there will be Gestalt psychology somewhere. Primal Scream, which was some kind of American approach. There was a lady, I forgot her name, who had a huge impact on his work as well. So it wasn't just him. It was him talking and learning from other people and exploring the the system healing or family healing therapy with other people, but then
in their own mind field of that work.
yes, which will be grounded in modern psychotherapy or European psychology. But the way he explored it and then presented it was then his. And then from him, his students took it. And then from the students, our students taking it. And I believe that every constellator will learn how the constellation works and operates, so the basis of it, but also every constellator will then bring personal aspect.
Yeah, and their own unique gifts and talents that you
Yes.
want to shine.
Because
within
if
that
it's a
work.
practice that involves seeing, then everybody will see things slightly their own way as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
They will bring their own unique talents and sensitivity to the constellation. So people shouldn't be surprised if different constellators run the constellation slightly differently. There will be differences.
Yeah, how they interpret it through their two prongs of understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How they approach it, I guess. The interpretation, we have to be careful with interpretations. But I guess how the tools they use, how to approach it, yeah.
And another year to go with that.
Yeah, maybe even longer, I don't
Maybe
know.
even longer.
It's the practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Great work. I love it. Love Nicola. We're going to get Nicola on, right?
Yes, hopefully.
Yeah. So hold tight for that one. Any passing words? Anything you feel like sharing to close? No?
Don't know right now. Do you have anything?
Well, I think other than that, just I think because again, it's the emotional stuff that comes up when we consider parenting or guilt, shame, whatever, and it's just understanding that we're just doing the best we can with what we have and what's available to us, right? And
Yes.
equally, I view it like it's a relay, this thing we call life, right? And we're holding the baton right now on that life's relay, and I don't have to run it with the same technique as whoever just handed me that baton. I can choose a different path, technique on that track to run around before handing that baton over. And I can also choose to learn so much more from the others around me whilst I'm running before I hand that baton over. And then it's up to that next being to take that baton and run their best leg with it. And all I can do is run my best leg with what I have available to me and the people that are around me to support me.
Yeah, and be responsible for your own choices. Yeah, like how to stay motivated. Just be motivated, be responsible for your own choices. However, give yourself love, just because there are some things you can't change because you're part of a bigger system.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the way I approach other people as well. Yeah? See them through the lens of love and compassion. There are so many things they can do because they're part of a bigger system. Yet we all have to be responsible for our own choices and change.
Love you, darling.
Love you, darling.
Great. Can't wait to do it again. As always, I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. If you feel drawn to do so, then please subscribe to the show, leave a review, and don't forget to share. Sharing is caring. It really helps me to help others. If you're drawn to immersing yourself in any of the Nat Life experiences or see yourself as a Nat Life coach, head to tonyriddle.com for details of how to immerse yourself in the community. You can follow my adventures on Instagram at The Natural Lifestylist. Big shout out to Simon from We Are the Clarks for producing, filming, editing. Much love.